How you doing, everybody? March of the Monarchs concludes with my reaction and review of Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire. It's been 3 years since the last MonsterVerse film, and here we are. The wait is over. Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire is finally out. A movie that, this is kind of I've always considered this movie to be a bit of this is a bonus movie. I've always referred to it as a bonus movie because honestly, I was one of those people who thought, well, I don't want to say I expected it, but I definitely thought that Godzilla vs. Kong was going to be the end of the MonsterVerse. I mean, that really did seem like the proper finale, and it was definitely, that was the movie they have been building up to for years since they first announced that they were going to do it back in, I think it was like 2015, I think it was now. So freaking 9 years ago, if you can if you can believe that. But I mean, this whole time it really felt like, you know, Godzilla vs. Kong was the big finale that they were building up to. So naturally, I thought that's when the MonsterVerse would end. But as we all know, it hasn't, and this movie it's a bonus. Like everything for me, everything that has come after Godzilla vs. Kong is just a bonus for me. So this is a bonus movie. And I saw it last night. This is my reaction, my review, my spoiler review. I'm just going to mention that there are going to be a lot of spoilers. I saw it last night, less than 24 hours ago. Saw it in Dolby. It was a 4 p.m. showing. It was the earliest possible showing that I could go to because I just couldn't wait anymore. I mean, it's been 3 years. A lot has happened in my life in the past 3 years. Godzilla x Kong is this bonus film that I didn't think was possible 3 years ago, but here we are. I couldn't wait. I saw it the absolute earliest time that I could. I wanted to sit on my thoughts. You know, I wanted to sleep through, let the thoughts settle a little bit. So yeah, it was a little less than 24 hours ago that I got out of the theaters, slept on my thoughts, and we're gonna dive into it. But before we do, I just want to thank you all for watching these March of the Monarchs videos. I hope you enjoyed them. I really do, because it was kind of a last minute thing. I wasn't planning on doing this, to be honest. You know, I did what was it? It was Monster May back in 2019 leading up to King of the Monsters, and then in March of 2021 leading up to Godzilla vs. Kong, I did my March of the Kings video series. And there was a lot more videos. I did a lot more videos for those series and a lot more in-depth videos as well. And to be honest, I mean, I had a lot more free time back in 2019 and 2021. That's essentially what it was. And the truth is, I was not planning on doing a video series for The New Empire because I simply thought I wouldn't have enough time. But I ended up doing March of the Monarchs. It was a complete last minute decision. Just didn't do as many videos as I did for previous video series, and they're not as in-depth, to be honest. They're not as in-depth as the ones I did for Monster May and March of the Kings. But regardless, I thank you very much for watching them, and I really do hope that you enjoyed them. So with that being said, let's get into my spoiler review for Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire. Right off the bat, did I enjoy it? Hell yeah. This was a joyride of monster mayhem. So much fun. Now, where I rank it, I do not know. I've only seen it once, obviously. I do plan on seeing it more times. Like I mentioned, I saw it in Dolby the first time. Second time, gonna definitely see it in IMAX. Gonna buy it on Blu-ray. Love physical media. Actually, I'll get the 4K as well. So I'm gonna watch it again, but right now it's too early to really rank where I put it in terms of, you know, the best MonsterVerse film or like my favorite MonsterVerse films. All I know is that I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. When comparing it to Godzilla vs. Kong, I think Godzilla vs. Kong is technically a better movie, but this one I think is just a little bit more entertaining. And again, that might just be recency bias. I literally just saw it less than a day ago. But I feel like there were less lulls in this movie. It was just a great, wild, entertaining ride from start to finish. So yes, I did enjoy it very much. It was fun. It had some ridiculous moments. Overall, it wasn't as ridiculously cheesy as I thought it was going to be based on the trailers that I had seen. It did have its moments, but overall, it wasn't like a complete 100% cheese fest from start to finish. It did have some heartfelt moments and some certain moments that I got emotional over, which I'll get into a little bit later. The movie started out, it was a nice kind of vibe continuity with Godzilla vs. Kong. This movie opened up with Kong again, this time on Hollow Earth with a pop song playing. I really like how they did they kept the tradition going, the MonsterVerse tradition. They did the redacted credits, like kind of like the top secret redacted opening credits montage. They did that as well, which I appreciated. I love that they kept that going. Nice little continuity between the films. We get into action right away with some monster fights, Kong and Godzilla. So this movie really hit the ground running, and it was pretty much nonstop. Now, obviously, it's all about the monsters. What did I think about the monsters? Kong was awesome in this movie, completely kick-ass. Godzilla was awesome as well. The CGI, it was hit or miss. I think overall, the visual effects in Godzilla vs. Kong were better and more consistent. In this one, X-Kong, The New Empire, a little bit hit or miss. The effects on Kong were amazing. The fur, his facial expressions, absolutely unbelievable. Godzilla looked wonky in a lot of things, a lot of parts. There was a lot of kind of like wider shots, a decent amount of wider shots of Godzilla walking or running, attacking, whatever, and they looked a little, not terrible, just off. I don't know, the animation, I don't know, I'm not an expert, it just didn't look and feel right. But Kong was definitely more consistent. But I loved Kong's story arc. He is the main focus of the movie. Godzilla was badass, kick-ass, whatever you want to call it. His new evolved form, the new design it's okay. Like, I don't hate it, but I don't love it. I love the 2019, 2021 Michael Dougherty version design of Godzilla. Wish they kept it. Oh well, what you gonna do? You know, it's not my movie. Just preference. But yeah, the evolved form is okay. It's whatever. Let's talk the villains. Shimo. If you saw my video talking about my most anticipated scene of the film, it was Shimo's reveal, because I tried staying away from most of the marketing. I mean, I watched the main trailers, and that's pretty much it. I tried staying away from the TV spots. Definitely stayed away from all the international TV spots and the Chinese TV spots, because they ended up being super spoilery. So I also tried to avoid the merchandise. Like, I didn't really look at the toys and the t-shirts and all this stuff. I really was trying to go into this movie fairly blind, especially when it was concerning Shimo, because they were definitely, at the beginning of the marketing, they were deliberately keeping Shimo a secret. So I just kind of I went, I got this, but it's pretty much the mindset of, I got this far not seeing Shimo, let me just hold off, and I'm not going to seek out anything regarding Shimo, because I wanted to see her in all of her glory, the big full body reveal. I wanted my first time experiencing that in the theater. So Shimo's design was great. I love how she was handled in the film. Was okay. I think a lot of people were saying Shimo kind of was a little disappointing. I don't think she was disappointing. I guess I was kind of expecting her to do a little bit more, but I was still satisfied with Shimo's role. I just love the design. I think that's what was most important to me, was her design, which I loved. Very original. I am a big advocate for original designs in the MonsterVerse. I want to see Legendary continue to create new monsters and add them to the history, the 70-year history of Godzilla. And so if it's 70 years, it'd be almost 90 years, 91 years for King Kong in the King Kong franchise. But yeah, I mean, I love the Skull Crawlers. I love the Mutos, the War Bats, which we got a glimpse of them. The Frostbark from Legacy of Monsters. What an awesome design. I want to see more original monsters, and I think that's why I was so excited for Shimo, just because it was another brand new creation for the MonsterVerse. So her design was awesome. Scar King, oh, what an asshole. Scar King was not what I expected in terms of characterization. They gave him a lot of emotion, facial expressions, body language. He was a dick, and he wasn't this overpowered giant monster. He kind of rose to power based on his mental prowess and his absolute zero F's, pretty much, is what I'm getting at. But he had no boundaries. Scar King had absolutely no boundaries when it came to treating other monsters, other titans, ending their lives. You know, you could see how he rose to power just because he has no regard for life, is essentially the point that I'm trying to make. He's a dick. He's an asshole. And I love it. He's not a redeeming character. He doesn't have any redeeming qualities. He is just a straight up villain that you want to see get his ass handed to him. And that's what we got. It was great. There was a lot of, we got some returning characters. We got Doug. Monsterverse fans know who I'm talking about. I'm not going to go into detail. We got, as I mentioned before, we got one scene of the Warbats flying. We got Scylla back. We got a couple returning creatures, but we also got a decent amount of brand new original monsters. This was a very monster-heavy movie. In fact, we got some scenes of like 5, 7, 8, maybe close to 10 minutes of just straight up monster action with like no dialogue. So yeah, it was crazy. Very, very monster heavy movie. Definitely the most monster heavy movie. I was going to say more monster heavy than Godzilla vs. Kong, and probably more monster heavy than the rest of the MonsterVerse, but no, definitely the most monster heavy movie out of the MonsterVerse so far. Let's see, who am I forgetting? Mothra. We can't forget Mothra. The queen herself has returned. Slightly different design, a couple different roars. They did showcase her classic roar a couple times, but she also had some new vocalizations as well. I'll be honest, I got a little emotional every time Mothra, I don't know why, but every time Mothra was mentioned or shown, I got emotional. It was great to see her back. Although one thing that I wasn't really a big fan of, Mothra's entrance, so her first appearance in the film, she kind of like just magically appears, like literally, and I'm not just saying that like, oh, like she's not there and all of a sudden she's there, like, oh, magically she's there. No, literally, she magically appears out of nowhere. She just kind of like, materializes out of this magical, sparkly dust, which is kind of weird. I don't know, to have her just kind of like magically appear. And I get Mothra leans more to the fantasy element of the franchise, and it's been alluded to her being some kind of a magical entity in the MonsterVerse. But I felt like, why couldn't they just have a cocoon, instead of, going up to the top of this. So Gia ends up, she's the one who summons Mothra. She goes to the top of this pyramid, and she summons Mothra, and Mothra materializes magically. I was just like, oh, okay, why can't they just have a cocoon at the top of the pyramid instead and have her emerge from the cocoon, traditionally? But whatever. It was, it didn't ruin the film. It's just, I wouldn't even call it a gripe. It's just, again, preference. But yeah, very monster heavy. For those who are looking for a monster heavy movie with a little human plot, you got it. As far as the cast goes, I like the cast. This was the most streamlined cast, and this was probably the most streamlined plot out of any MonsterVerse movie, and I think that was a good thing in this case. The human aspect in 2014 wasn't very engaging. King of the Monsters, next was Skull Island. Skull Island, I think, still has the best human cast out of the MonsterVerse movies. King of the Monsters was bloated, way too many human characters. Godzilla vs. Kong had the two human plots going on, which a lot of people feel, I do feel like as well, was a little bit unneeded. You could have just gone with one human plot in Godzilla vs. Kong. But for Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire, there wasn't two human plots going on simultaneously. They had one small core group of characters consisting of 4 people, 4 characters, right? Yeah, Eileen Andrews, Gia, Bernie, and Trapper. 4. So you had, those were the 4 main characters. So a streamlined cast, streamlined plot, and I think it worked. I think it worked. I think it worked for this particular film, considering how monster heavy it was. And all the characters were great. I was glad to see Gia back. She was my favorite human character of Godzilla vs. Kong. Andrews just kind of spews out exposition here and there, but I think it's pretty natural. It's as natural as it possibly could be. Bernie was fun. And Trapper was probably the best human characters. The very charismatic performance by Dan Stevens. Very entertaining character. You don't get a lot of backstory. They do allude to him and Eileen dating in college, but it was just a couple throwaway lines during Trapper's first appearance, and that was it. The humor was good. I think the humor in Godzilla vs. Kong was a little bit better. There weren't, as far as I recall, there weren't any cringy lines in Godzilla vs. Kong. There was 1 or 2 cringy lines in this one. I think they were all from Bernie. But overall, the humor I thought was very good. So yeah, those 2 main things. The monster stuff was great, was entertaining, was crazy. The CGI was mostly good to passable. And the human story served its purpose. Real quick about Scar King before I move on to some Easter eggs. Scar King actually appeared a little bit later than I expected. Like, we're going along this Hollow Earth journey. I remember sitting there in the theater thinking, like, I think we have to be a good hour into this movie, and we have not gotten Scar King and Shimo yet. So yeah, that was something that struck me while I was watching it, was Scar King and Shimo definitely appeared a lot later in the film than I expected them to be. Is that right? Expected them to be? Yeah, whatever. Anyway, they came a lot later is what I'm saying. I would have liked to have gotten a little bit more of a build-up for Scar King and Shimo. I expected a little bit of a longer build-up for Scar King and Shimo, but yeah, they definitely came in the later half. This is I think it's about an hour and 55-minute movie. That's including credits though, and those usually 10 minutes. So hour and 45 minutes maybe. So yeah, I think Scar King definitely, I think they did introduce, we didn't get our first look of the villains until more than halfway through the film. And I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of a build up to them, because they mentioned in some of Eileen Andrews' exposition that, they were like a world-ending threat. Scar King wanted to get to the surface and take over the world, and Shimo, has these she has the ability to create an ice age. They verbally built them up as world-ending threats, but the movie itself, how they were portrayed and the screen time they were given, didn't make them feel like world-ending threats, because there wasn't a lot of build-up. I feel like that they needed more build-up, and we needed more time with the characters in order to really make them feel like a big threat, because they definitely appeared a lot later in the film than I thought they would. There were definitely a lot of Easter eggs in this movie. Most of them I didn't notice or I can't remember. But I'm not one to catch these things during my first viewing. I always watch the Easter egg videos that YouTube content creators make after I watch the movie, because there's so much I miss. But the 2 that I remember catching, and the 2 that I remember now, is they actually happened in the same scene, coincidentally. The Bernie, when we see Bernie for the first time, we're in his apartment, and there's a poster. Bernie has the same monster poster on his wall that young Ford Brody had on his wall at the very beginning of Godzilla 2014. And that Easter egg really stuck out to me, because it was something I would have never expected. That's digging deep. Like, that's a callback. But I thought that was really cool. And then just like a few minutes later, Bernie made reference to, I guess there's an online troll making his life difficult, and the troll's handle was Ghidorah Stan 64, which it's cute, for those who don't know, Ghidorah's first movie was in 1964. So like little things like that. I love little Easter eggs like that. It really goes to show you how much love that the makers of these films have for the Godzilla franchise, and how much effort, time and effort they put into the little details. Also, I like the big snake creature. I'm sure it has a name. I'll have to look that up. The big snake creature that Kong faced. Kind of a throwback to what was that? That was 76, which was the movie that he fought like a giant snake. Also, maybe that was the world serpent. I don't know. Kind of a tease to that. Or what about that giant friggin' skeleton bridge? Maybe that was like the world serpent, kind of a T. Not that I'm saying the world serpent was ever going to be in a movie or it was a concept, or I'm just saying like maybe the makers of this movie caught wind of the world serpent rumor online and just had a little fun with it by making this giant skeleton. Maybe that's it. There was a decent amount of references to some of like the tie-in material, the graphic novels and the novelizations to the movies. They actually referred to Godzilla as the one who ate a star, or that might not be the exact quote, but I think that was from the Godzilla vs. Kong novelization, where the Iwi people refer to Godzilla as like the one who ate a star or something like that. They actually said that in this movie. There was a decent amount of other stuff. God, now I can't remember. See, this is why I wanted to wait. If I would have done this review, all the things that I've been ranting and raving about and saying in this, half of this wouldn't even have been said if I did this review yesterday, because my memory was just ugh. But yeah, the point is there were a lot of Easter eggs, and I can't wait to rewatch the movie and see how many I can catch. As far as the fights go, and man, were there a lot of fights. The most fights in any MonsterVerse movie. I even saw somebody post on Twitter that this film actually has more fights than Final Wars, which I think Final Wars has the most fights. Like, and again, and I even did a video about this during March of the Kings 3 years ago, trying to like count how many fights there were. It's subjective, there might be some little skirmishes that other people might not consider fights and this and that, but there's no doubt that this movie has some of, if not the most fights out of the entire Godzilla franchise. But it's up there with Final Wars, with just random fights scattered throughout the movie. As far as the quality of the fights, they were fun, man. They range from it's just this. I can make a whole video about this. I mean, they range from hand-to-hand, tooth and claw combat to spamming breath attacks to zero gravity fights. There's an underwater fight. The last fight in Rio, the tag team match fight, was just ridiculously epic. The fights were good. If you're going into the theater, if you're watching these movies to see some fun monster battles, you're gonna get it in this movie. One thing that threw me off, again, didn't ruin my experience, but the ending definitely felt rushed to me. Like the movie kind of ended abruptly. Like once the final kills happened in the final battle, then the movie just kind of like wrapped up really quickly after that. Like they showed, like they kind of showed what happens to each monster, after the climax, and it was just like boom, 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 and I don't know, I just felt like the movie kind of ended abruptly. They definitely, like I said, once the final battle ended, like they wrapped the movie up pretty quickly. So yeah, those are my immediate thoughts, my immediate reaction to this movie. For anybody who is curious, there is not an end credit scene. There is no mid credit scene, and there's no end credit scene. However, there is, depending on how you look at it, depending on how much you want your imagination to run wild, how you want to interpret it, there is maybe a potential teaser with what the next movie is going to be. So yeah, there's no end credit scene, but at the very end of the credits, you do hear Mothra's roar. That's the last thing. So it's not an end credit scene. It's an end credit soundbite, pretty much. So yeah, at the very end of the credits, you hear Mothra one final time. So maybe you can interpret that as maybe they're teasing a Mothra solo film as the next one, which personally I would be a fan of. So like, if I was in charge, my fantasy booking, I would love to see a solo Mothra film directed by Guillermo del Toro. Like, that's what I want to see. Give it like, you don't have to go crazy. You don't have to go ham. Just, a nice $100 to $130 million budgeted Mothra movie. Bring back the Chen sisters. Bring back the twins. Make it, no more than $130 million budget. Bring in Del Toro to direct, and I just think that would be, chef's kiss, because we know Del Toro, when he leans into the fantasy aspect of his films, and I'm thinking like Pan's Labyrinth, kind of like, which I love. Obviously Pacific Rim is one of the best monster movies of the past 20 years, but that's my dream. That's my dream. Get a Mothra film that doesn't have a crazy budget, bring back the Chen sisters, lean into the fantasy, and if you can get Del Toro to direct, that would be awesome. So that is what I would like to see, and maybe they teased that. Not that specific scenario, but maybe they teased a solo Mothra film. Either way, she's coming back. She didn't die. Like the first time ever Mothra didn't die. So she'll be back, I can only assume. Shimo did not die. Shimo did a face turn. And hopefully we'll see Shimo back. But yeah, the reception for this movie has been really, really well. As of right now, it is Friday, early afternoon, and this movie apparently did incredible at the box office. What I'm hearing, $10 million in previews last night, which is the highest. If it is in fact 10 million on preview day, that is the highest the MonsterVerse has ever had. I think Godzilla 2014 was the highest and made a little over $9 million on the first day, on preview day. This close to 10 million. We're looking at a very big opening weekend. This movie looks like it's going to be a big success. The critics, they're not crazy about it. It's to be expected. It's not bombing critically. It's just kind of like 50-50. But so far, the audience reaction and reviews have been stellar. The people who are going to see this movie are loving it. And yeah, I think we're in a good spot. I think we are in a good spot. It is, as of now, like I said, it is overperforming at the box office. The estimates, which I thought were kind of low to begin with, are blown away at this point. But yeah, it looks like we have a box office hit on our hands, and it looks like the general audience is really, really digging this movie. So as of right now, all roads are pointing to the MonsterVerse continuing, getting a sixth film, and I cannot wait. I cannot wait to see what the MonsterVerse is going to bring us. I love Legacy of Monsters too. Hopefully we'll get a season 2. A season 2 of Legacy of Monsters. Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire performing really well with audiences and at the box office so far. So the future is bright. Bring on more MonsterVerse. And with that, I'm going to wrap up. It's really cheesy, but would you expect anything less from this bald dork? So yes, let's wrap up March of the Monarchs. Once again, thank you very much for watching these videos. I hope you enjoyed them. That is my reaction, my review for Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire, the 5th MonsterVerse film, and it looks like it won't be the last. Take care, monster movie fans. Thanks very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, you can check out these other 2 playlists of Godzilla-related videos. And I would also greatly appreciate it if you further showed your support by liking, sharing, and subscribing.